I had to sacrifice the girl, I had to sacrifice the house, I had to sacrifice the life that I really wanted to live in order to have the life that I wanted to live in the future. And that's what I did.
This is Linden Chasteen. He's built a business that helps turn YouTube views into millions of dollars in sales.
If you post consistently for 2 years, your life will change for the better. How do I take those core principles and then build on top of them? How do I do something new that nobody's ever done? And that's really when we started to just explode.
Operating from Thailand, he's cracked the code to helping info product creators scale through strategic organic content.
The thing that really set me on the path was realizing that I could make money from YouTube and I could help a lot of people by doing that. The online money space is like a different world. It's not like normal life. It's a completely separate, detached reality that people don't understand that you can just make so much money in.
We sat down to unpack his journey, how he's grown to see his industry, and the lessons he's learned along the way. Welcome to another episode of Delusion by Design. Today marks a special occasion because it's not only the 10th episode we're putting out, but it's also the first international episode as well. And so we're here in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I couldn't have asked for a better guest to mark the occasion. So yeah, Linden, pleasure to have you, man.
Let's go, man. Yeah, it's an honor. I appreciate you bringing me on, and I think we're gonna have a really good combo.
Let's cook. So yeah, I have a lot to go through, and we'll go into structure as well and how we'll approach it in a bit. But before we get started, for those that don't know you, who is Linden? What does he do?
For sure. So a little bit about me. Basically, I do YouTube. That is my passion. That's what I love to do. And I like to grow YouTube channels. I've grown my own channel from 0 to 60,000 subscribers in the last year. I've grown people like Joel to over 260,000 subscribers in a year. We've grown a lot of the big info guys in the space, grown their YouTube channels, grown a lot of businesses on YouTube. We've generated over $30 million on the platform for our clients. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, beautiful, man. Yeah, I think, more than anything, especially from the exposure I've had to you over the last 24 hours or so, I know you're an amazing guy. I know you have a lot of knowledge about the space that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
But more than anything, the YouTube specifics and all the sauce and gems that you have on that, I want to save for that second episode.
Let's do it.
That we'll be releasing. But for now, I really want to focus on who you are and what you did to get to where you are. So I guess first things first, what would you say are the key, maybe 1 to 3 things that's important for someone to understand about your childhood that can explain the success you went on to have early on in life and the industry that you got yourself into?
Bro, that's a good question. Oh my God, I was not expecting that. So yeah, that's a tough one. Let me think. So for childhood, I would say I think the biggest thing was just being brought up with love. That's the biggest thing. I came from a family, and I know I'm very lucky for this, but I came from a family where there was just constant love. Even though my parents did get divorced when they were younger, they still kept that love between them. They kept that love for me, right? They were still best friends. And I value that so much because I think that really set up the foundation to where I can approach life without a feeling of lack, you know? So many people go into life searching for something that was lost in their childhood. And I feel so lucky that I'd never had that. I always felt fulfilled during my younger years, and that allowed me to push to the next level that I think not a lot of people get to, simply because they have something in their past that holds them back. A lot of people, for example, will go to therapy for past things, right? But for me, I just never felt the need, right? I know I'm lucky for that, but I think that really set me up for a phenomenal life.
Oh, that's amazing. Great perspective. And would you say that also has a lot to do with the industry you ended up going into and this whole YouTube journey you've been on?
I would say so, because I think for most people, it's very your parents want you to go the traditional path. I was very lucky in the sense that my parents were very okay with me not going down that traditional path. They were sure, if that's what you want to do, you can do that. But if you want to do anything else in your life, you do that and do it the best of your ability, right? So when I told my dad that I wanted to, do YouTube, I wanted to do business, he was like, dude, go for it. Enjoy it, have fun, and try it. And as long as I was doing something that could pay off in the future, he was completely okay with it. And I think that's like one of the things that was a lot easier for me because I never had to ask for permission. I just went for it.
I like that. Yeah, and I think, you know, what you said in terms of them kind of giving you that grace to go on, I think it's
Mhm.
all about just try to be the best at what you're trying to do,
Yeah.
right? It's not specifically what you end up doing, but this idea of trying to get better every single day, this idea of improving that actually will get you to like the pinnacle of any industry, really, right? And, you know, YouTube in particular, you mentioned the conversation with your dad in terms of getting into it, but
Mhm.
at what point did you realize this is what I want to do?
Good question. So originally how I came onto YouTube is I was just looking for something that could give me stability in my life, right? Because I really craved that at the time. And what I landed on was actually a YouTube channel from Graham Stephan. So Graham Stephan, one of the biggest finance YouTubers in the space. And I really had never had that influence of someone teaching me about money in my life before, right? Like, sure, my dad's decent with money, my mom's decent with money, but like not to the extent of, not to the extent of like, investing, all of that kind of stuff. So that was the first real voice that came to me in that specific area. And I really resonated with that message, just the message of stability, predictable growth, putting your money and making it work for you, right? And so once I found that, I kind of just went all in. Like I had been consuming YouTube my whole life, and I think that's where I get a lot of my background on it from. I've watched Minecraft videos, I've watched like travel videos, pretty much every niche on the planet. But the thing that like really set me on the path was realizing that I could make money from YouTube and I could help a lot of people by doing that, right? And so watching Graham Stephan building this massive business, right, while helping a ton of people learn more about money, that really inspired me. And of course, in the beginning, I did what everybody does, where I just copied someone who I liked. So I copied Graham Stephan and I made some videos. And at that point, I was like, you know, I want to get good at this and I want to help a lot of people doing this. And I just made a pact to myself. I was like, I have to post 52 videos in 52 weeks because I essentially heard a quote by Ali Abdaal that completely changed my perspective on YouTube, which was it's most people think that they're going to fail. So what Ali said that really changed my perspective was no matter what, after 2 years of posting, if you post consistently for 2 years, your life will change for the better. And everyone with business, they always think like, "Oh, what if I fail?" That was kind of the permission that I needed to be like, "Okay, there's absolutely no way this fails." Because even if I don't make it financially in the next 2 years, something good will happen in my life if I go really hard and I stay consistent and post 1 to 2 videos a week. So I made that pact, posted 52 videos in 52 weeks, didn't get anything from it, but I built the skill set of YouTube and I got my first 1,000 subscribers. And then from there, I had that foundation. I laid a very good foundation that I was able to build a really high skyscraper off of.
Oh, beautiful. And in terms of where you were in life at that point, right, in these 52 weeks,
Mhm.
so, you know, finish school, going to college, like at what point did you realize college specifically isn't worth finishing? I'm going to go all in to what I'm doing on YouTube.
100%. So for me, it was kind of at the point where I looked at what I wanted from my life and I realized that college had no fit into that, right? Like I essentially went to college to become a financial advisor because I just love finance, like at that time, and I was making videos at it. But I essentially moved to Mexico while college was happening because that was just during COVID and everything. So school was all online. I moved to Mexico alone at 19 and I started to try to make money. And I realized how easy it is. Like I essentially just hit up a bunch of people asking them if I could work for free. And I actually heard back from this guy called Nate O'Brien. I don't know. Do you know Nate? So
Assume I don't.
all good. Yeah. He's basically, at the time, he was probably the third largest finance YouTuber on YouTube. And had over 1 million subs, like was crushing it, right? And he's still crushing it. But I essentially emailed him. I was like, yo, can I do any work for you for free? And he was like, sure, let's do it. And so I started working for him for free. And within a month, I was making like $2,000 to $3,000 a month, which was probably half of what I would have made with a college degree. And I was like, that was so easy. This game is way easier than most people think. And this game is like the online money space is like a different world. It's not like just like normal life. Like it's a completely separate, detached reality that people like don't understand that you can just make so much money in.
It's facts. And, you mentioned Mexico, and I'm going to take you into the
Sure.
specifics of what you said about the online world as well. But you mentioned Mexico. We're in Chiang Mai, Thailand now.
Hmm.
You've been living outside of the US for a lot of the last 5 years.
Oh,
What made you want to A, get out, and B, become, I guess, a digital nomad?
100%. I mean, the biggest thing for me was I just wanted freedom. Like that was the number one thing. Like I essentially saw my parents kind of work their entire life, right? Like work up until they're 65. My parents are now like 68, 69. And the thing is like, dude, I don't know if I could like work that long. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm sure I could, but I would just be miserable. And I feel like that's a trap that like obviously everyone talks about like the rat race and everything, but it's real. Like that's a trap. Like that's brutal. And after discovering about location freedom, time freedom, all of these different factors, I was like, that's what I want. So how do I get that? I read things like the 4-hour work week. I, looked at the fire community, all these different people just completely changing their lives and retiring early, having complete freedom in their life. And that called me so hard that I was like, dude, like screw the traditional path. I have to go after it, at least to try,
And what would you say are your biggest takeaways from living abroad, like the adventures you've had?
Cool.
Again, you've been in Thailand for a long time in particular, but I know you've done Mexico, you've done Turkey. So
Yeah.
like what has the living abroad experience kind of brought to you?
I think the biggest thing is simply subcultures. So for me, like what I love learning about different cultures. Like for me, I went to Mexico. I went to some random city that nobody lived in, and I was like there's no foreigners there. It's a little city called Querétaro, and it's a big city. I think it's like 3 million people. It's like pretty big, but no one knows about it. And I just went there, and it was like such a great experience where I was just like integrated into everyday life, experiencing like what Mexico is like actually like, and realizing that the world is not a scary place. And so that's really why I decided to go, because I think it builds up so much confidence in yourself that you are going somewhere alone that you know nothing about. You don't know the language, you don't know anybody there. And you're going and you're putting yourself in that position and you're saying, I'm gonna come out here, I'm gonna build a life for myself. That is so powerful. And then if you can do that and do it in a fast manner, like if you can build a life within 3 months, which most people can, they just don't know that they can, then that builds so much self-confidence to where now I can go speak on a stage in front of 200-300 people and I'm not afraid because I trust myself and I trust my ability to perform under pressure.
I like that. Yeah, man. And, specifically beyond that, Thailand, you've been here for a
Mhm.
while now. Like, why here specifically?
Yeah, I think for Thailand, I basically came for the first time because I wanted to dial in somewhere for a year, get like a 1-year visa. But I came for the first time and I stepped outside in Chiang Mai, which is the city we're in right now, sort of just walking through a little market. And it was just so peaceful. Like it was one of the best feelings of peace I've ever had in my life where like there was just the sun was shining, people are walking, everybody's smiling, and I just felt like free. Like I finally felt that feeling that I had been chasing my entire life, you know? I felt that feeling of like, wow, I can survive here. I can survive under any circumstance here, like whether I'm making $500 a month, whether I'm making $50,000 a month, whether I'm making $5 million a month. I can survive out here and I can be extremely happy. And I think that's where most people they they don't look for that. They look for more and more and more. And for me, this was enough. Thailand is enough. It's exactly what I want. I don't need more than this. Obviously, I want more things in my life, but as far as like location, like I just fell in love with it.
Just found your place.
I found my place.
Love that. And, to slowly start pivoting more into work,
Mhm.
right? I'd love if you could kind of take me through the journey you've had on YouTube over the years, because where you're at now, well, where you started versus where you're at now, there's quite like a gap to fill within that, right? So if you could like speed run me through the process of, the journey so far, then we can start to unpack it.
100%. So when I first started out, I really struggled. Like I always knew I was smart, and I saw that I was, maybe doing a lot of things better than other people, but they were making way more money than I was. For a long time, for my first 2 years on YouTube, I was making like $1,000 a month, right? Maybe 2,000 on a good month. And I just didn't know how to make money. And so I essentially continued that until I finally got the opportunity to essentially have a mentor, someone to teach me. And that was the biggest breakthrough. And I think the biggest breakthrough that I would recommend for anyone here is if you're trying to learn something and you can't do something that even though you've been trying for a long time, you need to find someone to help you. Because what happened was I essentially made a video. I was making videos, I was getting good views, and I came across an entrepreneur who wanted to collab. We hopped on a call. I basically explained he wanted to grow his YouTube channel. I essentially explained to him how to do that, and he was like, "Yo, let's work on a video together." And I was like, "Sure, yeah, I'll do it for free." And I did it for free. That video got like 196,000 views, and this entrepreneur was like, "What? Like that's insane!" Because he was getting 1,000, 2,000 views at the time, and he essentially invited me out to work with him in person. And at the time, I had a life. Like I had a life in Thailand. I had a girlfriend. I had a house. Like I had stuff that I had to be here for. But I knew that that person was the person who was going to essentially teach me how to get the future that I wanted. And I knew that I had to make a really big sacrifice. I had to sacrifice the girl. I had to sacrifice the house. I had to sacrifice the life that I really wanted to live right now in order to have the life that I wanted to live in the future. And that's what I did. I dropped everything. I moved to Denver, Colorado to work with this guy named Kaplan, who is an 8-figure entrepreneur, really, really talented guy, one of my best friends right now. And he basically taught me literally everything that I know. I went from making $2,000 a month to now we do anywhere between like $40,000 to $60,000 a month. And he's the one who sparked all that. I went there with nothing. He basically taught me how to run a business. He taught me how to sell, how to market, how to even do content better. Like we taught each other so much. I taught him a lot about YouTube, and in exchange, he just taught me how to make money. And ever since then, because I went to someone that experienced, I've been ahead of everybody else, and it's allowed me to, kind of achieve the income levels that I wanted to.
Oh, that's sick. And in terms of your own journey, right? Because, you mentioned you're kind of essentially like a freelancer. And then nowadays you run an agency, you run an operation, right? So as you went through that journey with business, how was the journey as a creator that you went on? Because again, you mentioned 52 videos in 52 weeks.
Yeah.
I know you were speaking about personal finance a lot when you got started versus now you're speaking about YouTube growth.
Yeah.
How to grow your channel as a coach, consultant, someone in the info space. So how did your content kind of like evolve over the years?
100%. Good question. So when most people start off, and this is the same thing that happened to me, is they make content that nobody watches, right? They start off, they have bad titles, they have bad thumbnails, they frankly have bad videos. And I was in the same boat. That first year I sucked. Like looking back at that now, that first year I was wondering, why aren't my videos getting views? Why aren't my videos getting views? I'm putting so much effort, sometimes 10, 20 hours into a single video. And to see that it gets like 10, 20 views, you're like, damn, that hurts. It hurts in your soul. And what you realize is YouTube, there's essentially like a valley of death that you have to cross. So most people, they start off and they think, oh, this is going to be easy. I can just copy someone, make videos that are similar to theirs, and I'm going to get results, right? At least more than like 10, 20 views, right? People think maybe I'll get 1,000, 2,000, a fraction of what that other person's getting. But the thing is, there's a gigantic skill gap of about 1 to 2 years between the start and the point where you actually understand the YouTube game. And so essentially that first year, I was just understanding that game. I was taking lessons. I was learning how to do proper thumbnails. How do you have proper thumbnail psychology? How do you write titles that demonstrate a dream outcome that get you faster to the result, right? I was making videos where I didn't have any copywriting in my script. I would just write a script and I would think, oh, this is good. I'm teaching people, I'm adding value, but I didn't understand how to rehook people. I didn't understand how to get them past the first 30 seconds. And I didn't know how to retain them. In the edit, I learned how to edit. I started off just doing like an A cut, which is essentially just not adding any B-roll, not adding any elements. And then I started adding B-roll. I started learning how to use stock footage. I started learning how to use music, sound effects, all these different things. And learning all these different programs, Photoshop, Final Cut Pro. And that's the skill gap that people need to go through. And after I developed that skill gap for a period of 1 to 2 years, that's when I really blossomed. And that's when I really started to understand the actual YouTube game. That's when I started to take it to the next level. Now that I had the basics, I could understand, how do I take those core principles and then build on top of them? How do I do something new that nobody's ever done? Taking these core principles that I already know will work. And that's really when we started to just explode, was when we did something new after understanding the base level that you need to understand.
Amazing. And you have a video that I've watched called something along the lines of money versus passion.
Yeah.
I've heard you speak about that as well as like a turning point for you.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, like, what were the takeaways you got from that video?
For sure. So with the money versus passion video, the reason why I made that video, and I think this is actually something that a lot of creators struggle with, is they have this feeling where they want to make content that feels good for them to create. They want to make content that feeds their soul. They want to tell stories, and they want to really make phenomenal content that they really resonate with. But the problem is that actually when they usually do that, it doesn't make a lot of money. So there's always this constant dilemma where, oh, I could make another dropshipping video. Oh, I could make, another full course, another full guide, and I could make, 10, 20, 100,000, $200,000 from that one video. And for a lot of creators, they often get burnt out making that monetizable content, and they want to do something a little bit more that actually like feeds their soul. And the thing that most people don't understand is that what their audience wants is the most important thing. And the crazy thing is that your audience doesn't really care how you feel. They don't care about your soul. The audience wants to be educated on the topic that you promised that you were going to educate them on. And oftentimes that leads to the monetizable route being the best route. And I went through that transformation. I spent a whole month making this one video that was about, do I choose money versus passion? And it was one of the most least viewed videos on my channel. It was the one that I put the absolute most effort, over 100 hours for sure, into that one video. Literally like a whole month traveling an entire country, filming every single day, doing a ton of work, and it just got like 300 views. At the time, I was getting like 10, 20, 50,000 views on every single video. And so I realized after that video, I was like, this isn't what people want. And that was a huge breakthrough for me. People don't care about your passions. You need to include your personality in your content, sure, but you need to make content for the viewer that wants to be educated by you. And oftentimes that leads to going down the monetizable route.
And even, I mean, beautifully put, but even on that specifically, business models, right? Because what you do today equally isn't what you were doing 3-4 years ago. So, in our conversations, we spoke about Instagram pages, short form content agencies. So again, very briefly, if you could kind of talk me through the evolution in business to get to where you are at the point you're at now.
For sure. So I started off thinking that YouTube was going to be my main vehicle. Like I started off thinking that, I'm going to make money through AdSense, right? Which I feel like is where a lot of people start off.
Yep.
They think, I'm going to make $10,000 a month through YouTube ads. That's so hard.
So tough.
People don't realize how hard that is. Like people are like, I'm going to get monetized and then I'm going to like make money, right? And I'm going to be able to quit my job. Usually that's not the case, unfortunately. Some people, yes. If you get millions and millions of views, yes. But for majority of people, they're going to have to monetize through other vehicles. And the first year, I just went purely through AdSense. I made good money on AdSense. I was making $1,000 to $2,000 a month every single month on AdSense, which was enough for me to actually live, right? And then I started making an extra $400 or $500 a month through sponsorships, all of that, even on a channel with under 10,000 subs. So that was the initial way that I monetized everything. And I just realized that it wasn't scalable. And if you are a creator, you're going to probably come to this realization as well, unless you're maybe an entertainment creator or something like that, that if you do education, you're eventually going to realize you can't pay your bills off AdSense. And the next step after that is to have some sort of product. If you currently sell courses, then unfortunately, the market right now will destroy you. Like, you're gonna get destroyed, and almost no one is going to buy that because there's such a bad rep on courses right now. So unless you're in like a very specific niche that's like super niche that hasn't been burned yet by people who sell courses, then you might be able to get away with it. But for majority of people, 99% of industries, what you want to do, the best strategy that we're seeing working right now is actually giving all the information away for free on the front end. Like, for example, what we did, we gave away a completely free 6-hour YouTube course that is, in my opinion, obviously I'm biased, but in my opinion, better than any other course like on the market. Like, we went through everything from like strategy, ideation, titles, thumbnails, scripting, editing, taught you like the high level things on every single part of YouTube so you can get past that 1 to 2 year gap sooner, right? And with that, that created so much goodwill. And that was one of the biggest things that grew our channel, because people don't expect that you're going to give away the information for free. Everyone expects that you're going to sell them a course. And if you take the opposite approach and you give away all the information for free on the front end, you will build so much goodwill with people because they essentially got so much value from you, right? You want to just, there's 2 ways to stand out on YouTube. It's either to be new or to be better. And being better is a lot easier than being new. So if you can simply just go into your market, make a completely free course, give that away, you're going to be way better off than anybody else in your market. And the thing with that is you can monetize a ton through affiliates. Like, we were probably making an extra $3,000 to $5,000 a month just through affiliate income. No extra work required on our end. And we still get affiliates from that today. So
that's affiliates of like different softwares that you're recommending people use?
exactly. So in pretty much every single industry, there's going to be a couple different softwares that you can recommend people that make a ton of sense. Like, for example, if you're in the marketing space, you could recommend Go High Level. Or if you're in, for example, the YouTube space, I talk about vidIQ, 1 of 10, all these different kind of YouTube tools, right? They're very necessary if you want to grow fast, right? So you're only selling stuff that you actually use, but it's not even your own product. It's somebody else's product. And you want to obviously negotiate really good deals with those companies. Like, you want to do lifetime recurring on all those. You don't want to just be like affiliate for 3 months and then cuts. It's not a good model. Almost all of these companies will negotiate lifetime, especially if you're doing something that could bring them a ton of leads. So that's the first step. The second step after that is you actually build out what is called a coaching program. So what you want to do is essentially build out some sort of program that you can sell to people where you help them one-on-one. There's a lot of different ways to help people with coaching. You can help them one-on-one. You can help them one-to-many with you. You could have a coach do one-on-one, or you could have a coach do one-to-many. And as you go down that ladder, you're going to be able to charge less and less money. What I would recommend to start off is you just charge, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month for a one-on-one slot with you. Right? Keep it very simple. Have a few deliverables. Be like, hey, we'll set up, like, for example, like a Facebook ads channel, right? Hey, we'll set up your Facebook ads and we'll coach you one-on-one how to be successful with your Facebook ads, right? That will be a very easy offer to sell because you can sell it below the market. If it's your first kind of offer, you can make a lot of money with it. You can make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month just by selling that really simple offer. And then once that gets maxed out, then you go to one-to-many, right? Hey, we'll teach you how to build Facebook ads, and you go one-to-many. Or you charge one-to-many for the majority of people, and then you do a one-on-one that's way higher ticket, maybe $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month per person. That is such a better model because compared to the $300, $500, $1,000 that you're going to get from selling a course, Selling coaching, you're able to charge 1,000 to 10,000 plus per month per client. And that's how I've been able to scale my income. And that's how so many other people on YouTube have been able to monetize, even with small followings, even with 1,000 subscribers, 2,000 subscribers. They're making 10, 50. We have one client, for example, he literally has like 4,000 subscribers and he makes over $100,000 a month from his channel.
No. Yeah, because I think I was always taught to see it as like an iceberg,
Yeah.
right? So at the top part, you have AdSense, which is sticking out, which is YouTube paying you for the content that you make. Then in the middle kind of bracket, you have sponsors or affiliates like you described, where essentially you're getting paid to push other people's stuff.
Mhm.
And then the big bulk of the iceberg, where you really make the money, is being able to push your own stuff, right? Whether it's a course, whether it's coaching, whether it's some kind of specific offer, being able to use that as the thing that's really going to drive the money there. And I want to go into, again, I really want to go deep into info, but just before I do, again, mention briefly, content agency you used to run back in the day. Is that something that you still see as a viable thing to be doing today?
Yeah, I would say probably it's better to do, just because of the competition, I'd say it's better to do sub niches off of that. Like for example, my friend Brian, he helps people start like script writing agencies. That's a much easier agency to start because there's so many people who need script writing, and especially with AI, it's such an easy thing to deliver on. Like I would start, like if I was starting again today, I would leverage my skill set in either thumbnails, in editing, or script writing. And I would do literally just an agency based off those in like specific things. I wouldn't do like a full service content agency just because there's so many people doing it. And especially if you're starting off, you're just not going to be able to compete with someone who's already high up, who has these 7, 8-figure clients. Like you're just not going to stand out because these people get outreach to every single day. So it's better to integrate and actually form an agency on a subcategory of YouTube.
I like that. Interesting. And again, just to touch on the other one, so Instagram theme pages or your journey on Instagram in general, if you could very briefly kind of say what you used to do, I don't know if you still do, and then whether it's still like a viable thing that people should.
Okay, for sure. So yeah, when I first started, I used to run theme pages. We had a couple theme pages. We had one for Scotland, we had one for Italy, and we basically just ran those up to a few 100,000 followers. We used to make around like $5,000 a month from those.
Okay.
But the thing is like with theme pages, you're really not going to get past that like $5,000-$10,000 a month mark. At least unless you have like a finance page, which is extremely competitive, extremely hard to stand out and build. And then you could maybe make $20,000-$30,000 a month, like selling shout outs, but it's just not a good business model. Kind of same thing as like faceless channels. I think for majority of people, faceless channels are definitely better than Instagram pages. But I think for majority of people, just like selling info, figuring out something that you're really good at and then selling that is the right move, or selling an agency service. Either of those, I think, is a way better model.
Yeah, and even, on that, you mentioned you started off as a creator, you're growing your channel, you got it to almost 10K subs. At one point, you decide to pivot into actually teaching and consulting others on how they can do the same. What was the turning point, either moment or, series of events that led you to think like, yo, this is a skill set I've built up that I can now sell as a service to someone else?
Yeah, so actually how I did that originally was by accident. Because frankly, like if you have 10,000 subs, you have no right to be coaching people on YouTube, right? Like that does not make sense. So I didn't ever go into it with that intention, right? So I developed that skill set of YouTube. And then what I did is I accidentally closed Jolt. Like we hopped on a call just to do a collab, and I accidentally just like, he invited me to co-work with them, and I was like, sure, right? I hadn't started my agency at that point. I started my agency way after we grew him to 200,000 plus subscribers, because then I actually had the actual experience and I had the actual credibility behind that. And then I proved it again by growing my own channel from 0 to 60,000 subscribers, right? And so if you don't have a channel that you've grown, or you don't have, for example, if you've never made money with Facebook ads, or if you've never made money with dropshipping or anything like that, you have no right to sell info on it. It's even an agency service is still like a bit like what you should do if you're in that situation is a very similar thing to what I did, where you should find one person who you can go work for and work kind of as an employee almost, and go get them extremely good results, blow them up. Like literally just with Joel, we made him over $6 million on the platform. And that was before I started my agency. And so after that, after I helped him explode his channel, monetize and make millions of dollars on the platform, that gave me the launch pad to actually start selling info, to where I could do that and be confident in my ability, but not just be confident in my ability, but actually have done what I'm selling, right? And so you need to do that first. And I think the best way is to find someone who you know for a fact that you can really help, work one-on-one with them, and then prove that you actually know what you're talking about.
Have that as the case study, right?
Yeah, you need a case study.
And I think that's a good point to kind of pivot into, Joel and info in general. So, I mean, you kind of mentioned what it took to make the decision. You were in Thailand at the time, and then you had this opportunity, and you were like, okay, sacrifice everything here, go learn and make money there to be able to achieve the future I want.
Yes.
Right. While you were there, specifically within him and the context of what he's doing and what he's building, what do you think it was that allowed him to build an audience of over 200,000 in a niche, especially nowadays, where a lot of people are trying to do the same thing?
100%. It was really just going back to that core principle of YouTube, which is either being new or being better. What we did, for one, we were the first people in that space to launch a free course. Everyone in Joel's in the agency space. He's like how to build a marketing agency. Everyone in the marketing agency space was selling a course. And the way that we became better than everybody else in the market was by simply giving away more for free than everyone else in the market. For example, Joel's whole catchphrase was, I'm on a mission to give everything away for free, or I'm on a mission to destroy all of the gurus by giving everything away for free. And people really resonated with that because there was so much combined hatred for all the people selling courses that we were able to just give everything away for free, help a ton of people. We've made so many people millionaires from that free course. There is so many people who have never paid Joel a cent that have become millionaires from that free course. And same thing for me, right? Like there's a lot of people who have grown 100,000 plus subscribers who have never even paid me a penny, right? And that's the point. The point of that course is to just provide as much value as you can and help as many people as you possibly can. And sure, you're going to monetize through some affiliates on the back end, but what that opens you up to is it opens you up to essentially skyrocketing yourself to the top of your niche and becoming the number one kind of just like industry leader in your space. And so it goes back to that concept of new or better. So for example, someone like you were talking about Rob the Bank, who has if you haven't seen him, maybe we could put up a little preview here, but he basically has created a very new style on YouTube. And it's super unique. He's someone who's done it and he's made it new. However, to do that is a lot harder than to be better. So you could do both. For Joel, we were a little bit of both because we were the first people to launch a course. So it was new, but it was also more value than anybody else was putting out. So every single channel that I approach, I either take we could talk about this more in the YouTube masterclass, but I take a concept called X but X, where you basically take a popular niche and then you add an X factor to it, where you essentially remove yourself from all the competition and create what I like to call a blue ocean, which is essentially operating in a space where there's no competition with other people. And you could do that, or you could just simply make better videos than everybody else in the space. You could give away more value than everyone else in the space. Instead of everyone giving away a 5-hour free course, a 4-hour free course, which is what's happening in most niches right now, you could give away one that's 100 hours. You could give away a free AI tool that does all the work for them. You could give away so many different things that completely separate you from everybody else.
New or better?
New or better.
I like that. And when you look back at your journey up to this stage and you reflect on the time that you were with Joel and you were working there in Colorado, away from where you wanted to be here, what can you look back on and point to and say, like, this is something I learned during that time, or I grew from this thing during that experience?
I think the biggest thing that I learned is just get people to pay you more money. The number one thing that people do that messes them up in business is they just charge a low amount. Like, I literally watched Joel close like $40,000, $50,000 deals for people just spending a day with him, right? Most people would charge like $200, $300. Like, the actual level that you can charge if you position yourself the right way is, I think, what separates the people who make so much money from the people who don't. It's simply a mindset thing of like, I am worth this value, and communicating that to the market, and then essentially having the balls to pitch something like that. Be like, hey, you want to come spend a day with me in person and I'll teach you about YouTube? Okay, it's $20,000, $30,000, right? And for the right buyer, that makes a ton of sense, because that one day will make them $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. So I think just charging more is the biggest thing I learned.
That's definitely a great takeaway. And even, I'm assuming that was your first, or not assuming, but was that your first exposure to like the info space in general and selling courses, selling coaching?
100%. Yeah, I had a dropshipping channel before that, so I was exposed to like the e-commerce side of it, but I was never exposed to the coaching info and agency world as well.
And what is it that draws you to that space nowadays?
It's just the high ticket nature of it. It's low risk. You can charge $3,000 to $5,000 a month. It's just like so much better than any other space. Like, you could sell 100 units of like a $10 product, right? Or you could just sell like one $1,000 product, which is like way easier, like a million times easier, especially if you just learn like the basics, like how to come up with an offer, how to get traffic. Like, it's not that hard. There's a learning curve that you have to go through for sure, but like realistically, it's like actually not that hard.
Do you think anyone could get into selling information and producing good content?
100%. For example, we just signed on a client that sells sourdough, right? I was telling you about this, but completely random niche. Like, that person is essentially just making sourdough, right? But they have a really good offer on it. They have a low ticket product where they essentially sell how to make sourdough, something that they don't have to do any work on. They can just sell that and they have consistent income coming in. And then they have a higher ticket product where it's how to start a micro bakery, right? And they actually have, a multi-$1,000 product that they can sell to people who want to build their own micro bakery. And that micro bakery will make them anywhere between, $5,000, $10,000 every single month. So it's worth for them to pay a high ticket product to get that product, or a high ticket price to get that product, right? And so anyone can sell. If you can make like a ton of money selling sourdough, I think most people can do it. Yeah.
I hear that. And again, I'll save YouTube and the depths of that for the next conversation we'll have, and I'll leave that linked in the description. But on that topic, before shifting into mindset, I know you've recently written a book about YouTube growth.
Mm-hmm.
By the time this comes out, hopefully it should be available.
It is available, yes.
It is available now.
Yes,
So
right
I'll
now
leave the link in the description as well for people to find it.
Thanks, man.
But I mean, firstly, what was the book writing process actually like for you?
Yeah, for sure. It's a long process. So basically how it works is you come up with the idea for the book, obviously. Then you have to map out all the chapters. Like, what things do you actually want to cover in the book? And then the writing process. And that's the hardest part, is you got to write all the stuff. So write all the stuff, get everything in there, include diagrams. I went through and I drew diagrams after the fact. So I wrote the whole book. Then I did diagrams. I wrote it with my co-author, Joel, and the diagrams in there. And then from there, publishing, you got to make sure it's formatted, make a title. Fortunately, we have great graphic designers on the team, so they helped out a ton with that. Do all the disclaimers, descriptions, and publish it on Amazon or wherever else you're going to publish it.
Tell me a bit about the book itself then. If you could summarize like the message, where you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
What's the book about?
100%. So the book is called YouTube Growth Made Simple. And it's essentially an entire roadmap on how to get your first 100,000 subscribers. So the reason why I chose that number is because 100,000 subscribers is the amount of subscribers that someone needs to get in order to essentially pretty much not worry about money anymore. Like if you have 100,000 subscribers and you sell some sort of product on that, you're going to be at the point where you're making at least like $10,000 a month. Like it's very hard not to make any money if you have 100,000 subscribers, right? And so I wrote that book to essentially give people a roadmap to get there as fast as possible. Because like I said, there's that valley of death. This book is basically the shortcut through that valley of death. I talk about every single problem and every single solution that someone needs to go through in order to cross that bridge, in order to get to the point where they understand YouTube well enough to post a video and have it perform. And they know exactly what videos to make. And they know exactly how many views a video is going to get before they even publish it, because they've actually used real data. They know that they have proper thumbnail psychology. They know they have proper title psychology. And they know that they've written a great script, done a great edit. And they know that the video is backed by data and it's going to at least get this amount of views and hopefully a lot more. So it's essentially a data-driven approach to YouTube, and it teaches you all the fundamental skills that you need to grow a 100,000 subscriber channel.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, and we'll dig all into that in the next episode. But briefly, last one on YouTube. What would you say are the lowest hanging fruit that you see that people could take on to improve their videos straight away?
The lowest hanging fruit is better thumbnails. Better thumbnails. Simply hire a thumbnail designer for like $40, $50. That's like a few $100s a month. That one expense alone can 10 to 100x your channel without changing anything else. That's the highest leverage thing, because if someone doesn't click on your video, then it doesn't matter how good your actual content is. The most important thing is actually just getting that click. So if you can get a really good thumbnail, learn how to write good titles, that's 80-20.
Beautiful. Yeah, again, we'll explore all about that. But to transition to mindset, you know, I know you had a period where you were posting a lot of videos on YouTube with nothing really to show for it. Maybe during that time you might have had uncertainty, not sure of what the next steps are, what the direction you're going in is. So what was it that actually got you through that process and allowed you to keep your head down and keep going, even though there was nothing to show you were gonna succeed with it?
It was simply that promise that I heard from Ali, and I'll make that same promise to literally everybody watching this, is that if you post one video a week for the next year, I can guarantee you for a fact that your life will be in a better spot than it is today. And it was that promise that really gave me the permission, even though I saw no subs, even though I saw no money coming in. It was that promise that I just held on to, and I believed, and I still believe to this day, is that there is almost no person to where if they post content for the next 1 to 2 years consistently every single week, their life will not be in a better place.
I like that. And how did you approach the moments in your life where there wasn't clarity and you weren't really sure what the next steps were, but you were still in that day to day? Was it that quote specifically of just keep going? Was there like a grander plan you had in mind? Was there something specific that really took you through, I guess, what you called the valley of despair, or any other like negative experiences you had along the way professionally?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is just like that concept of getting 1% better. Like every single video that I would try to do, I would detach myself from the outcome. I had the outcome of just being, hey, if I post one video a week, I know my life's going to get better. And every single week, I was happy that I posted. Even if it got 200 views, even if it got 0 views, I was just happy that I got a video out because I knew that I was showing up for myself and I was making each video better every single time, whether that be adding sound effects, whether that be just making my setup look a little bit better, whether that be just improving my tonality. Like you hear the way that I speak on this podcast, I was not like that like 4 years ago. I was just extremely like flat. Like I was just like this and I was just like super boring. But now I can actually express myself, right? And like that is such a powerful skill that you can learn. And it's those improvements that, for one, make you a better person, but it's also those improvements that help you get better at content. So it was just constantly improving.
And even on that specifically, tonality, how you come across, how you're able to communicate, you said you can work on that, and I agree.
Yeah.
How did you approach actually working on that for yourself?
Yeah, good question. It was a lot of just simply like looking back at my videos and seeing where I could improve. Like, for example, one of the main notes that I remember from myself back in that day that I made a huge change and it made a huge difference was my hand movement. What I used to do is I used to think that I had to move my hands. So I moved them for every single word. So I was like, well, if you want to do this and you want to do that, like you really can't like so and that made it so like jumpy and like nervous feeling to where I realized that I just needed to calm down my hand movements. And now, for example, I have pretty calm hand movements. Like I can leave my hands still and I can just leave them here, do one little movement, and it makes it feel a lot more engaging and a lot more serious. Another thing is like, for example, with hands is like you should always show your palms,
Mm.
right? That builds familiarity, it builds trust because this is a vulnerable part of your hand. So it's like little things like that. I would learn that and I'd be like, oh shit, that's cool. I didn't know that. Take that into the next video and make it 1% better.
Do you feel like you approached it in a very like scientific, psychological way, as opposed to a very I'm looking at my video, how do I make this better off the top of my head type thing?
I think I would always just try to add one more thing. I would try to add one more thing, whether that be a better thumbnail, whether it be like adding a better B-roll, like just try to make something every single video, even if other parts went down, making one new thing better. I think that's really what you got to do.
For sure. No, and again, from my own experiences, I know that the hand movements are also key because, especially if you're making a bunch of mistakes and you're chopping a video,
Yeah.
if your hand is here and then you're repeating it and your hand is here and
Yeah. It's
in the
important.
chop, it's like teleporting between the things.
Yeah.
It's very noticeable. Okay, another thing. So I've heard you speak about not liking to share your goals,
Mm.
right? Like not putting them out there. To not press on that, more so just to ask the process behind that. Why do you not like sharing your goals?
Yeah. So the reason why I don't like sharing my goals is because I think it makes you feel like you've already achieved something, right? Like if you share your goals, you've already had the external validation of someone saying, "Oh, that's great. That's a great goal. Like you can definitely do it." And then you kind of already feel like you've already done it. But if you don't tell anyone and you just move in silence, it's so much more effective. You're going to put in the work. You're not going to get that external validation. That's why I like it. Yeah, and I think there is some value in people holding you accountable. But for me personally, I'm a very self-driven person. I'm very self-motivated, self-disciplined. And for me, I find it works best just to keep it to myself.
I like that. Yeah, and I agree. I think some people speak their goals into existence. Others speak so much about their goal that they never give themselves the chance to actually go and achieve it. Right.
It's true.
So no, that's a big one. And then another one, we spoke yesterday about essentially this concept of people having to go through periods of loneliness
Mm.
in order to get to where they want to go. So I mean, first off, what was that like in your experience for you?
Yeah, so essentially what happened is I moved to Turkey, right? And Turkey was definitely one of the most lonely periods of my life. And the reason for that is because, like, obviously, you're moving to a country, you don't speak the language. It's a more conservative country, so everyone is like more conservative. They're just not trying to be friends, you know? And of course, Turkish people are great. I love Turkish people, by the way. I made some good friends in Turkey eventually, but it took a long time. And like I would have little interactions here and there, but the biggest thing is people there just aren't as friendly as they were back home, and also obviously the communication gap. So it's like that time I didn't have really any online life as well. And so I was just kind of making YouTube videos. Making YouTube videos in my apartment. I wasn't getting crazy amounts of views too. So I kind of just felt like I was just like wasting my life during that time. And now looking back on it, I realized that was such an important part of my life because I learned how to master myself and master my mind. And I took that period of loneliness to have a great transformation in my life to where I learned that I need to surround myself with more like-minded people. I need to actually have community in my life. Because before, to be honest, I always thought like I could be alone, like that's fine, and I can, and I know for a fact that I can because I've been through that. But I realize life is so much more fulfilling if you have people you care about around you.
Yeah, and I think my reading of your reflection is essentially you were able to develop that self-awareness to actually understand what it is that you were looking for, right?
Yes.
And especially once you identify and once you have clarity on where to set the compass. Through that, you're able to actually direct your efforts, the universe, God's help, whatever you want to call it, to actually get you to that place, right? And yeah, I mean, speaking about direction, I know we just mentioned about not speaking about your goals, not, wanting to put that out to the world.
Sure.
But in terms of a general direction, in terms of where you're looking to go, what you're looking to do, is there anything that you'd be happy or willing to share?
Sure. I think the biggest thing for me is I just want to become the best man that I possibly can, right? Like, and that goes in all aspects of life. That's physical. So physical, like I just want to be in the best shape that I possibly can. In terms of my behavior, I would like to act in a way that aligns with the man that I want to be in the future, which is a man who cares about his family, who does right by people, is a man who, for example, doesn't let disrespect slide. I want to, and that goes to my family, that goes to my loved ones, that goes to my friends. I want to be a person who raises other people up. And I think just building the characteristics that can make me into that person is really what I'm focused on the most, is because I know for a fact that that's the person who I will be, and it's the person who I need to be, in order to live the life that I want and be the kind of person that I want. And I think if I didn't reach that, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And so everything in my life is optimized towards becoming that version of myself. And I think for any man in the world, you need to think about, who do you really want to be? What kind of man do you want to be? How do you want to show up for yourself, your family, your friends? Have that vision in your head and do everything that you possibly can to work as fast as you can towards that person.
That's true. No, and embody traits of that person before you even become that person,
Exactly.
so that you can become that person.
And a lot of it's sacrifice.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, again, if you don't make sacrifices, your dreams become the sacrifice.
It's true, yeah.
Stuff like that. But yeah, bro, I mean, a couple other questions just that I like to finish off this section. And again, full YouTube 101 breakdown going to be down in the comments. And normally I would have included it within our conversation itself, but with you, since there's so much to go into, and since I'm so curious about a lot, figured might as well just, have as a
Sure.
separate one. But yeah, man, before anything, huge pleasure to have you on, and more than anything, even bigger pleasure to meet you as well, my friend. Really appreciate the hospitality, and from being such a homie from the off, and to be able to meet people like you is a big reason as to why I started this, and want to go on this journey, and excited to see what we both get onto down the line.
Me too.
But yeah, before specific diving into YouTube, two finishers that I always like to ask my guest. So first one, if you could speak to a past version of yourself who was going through a tough time, regardless of what that time was, you don't need to reveal it per se, what advice would you give them then?
I would just tell them that you're gonna be all right. Like, I mean, that's like a super basic answer, but I think that's what that version of myself would have needed to hear, you know? Just knowing that everything's gonna be okay, like, as fucked as life is at the moment, like, it's things get better, and yeah, I think that's it. Simple.
It's an important one. Reassurance, right?
Yeah, I think so. But actually, maybe not. Actually, I take it back. I wouldn't tell myself that. I would tell myself that you need to fight to get out of that spot
Mm,
and fight hard.
what would you say fighting looked like for you at that time?
Just cutting out the negative influences in my life and then basically shifting my life towards a positive trajectory, right? Like, I think that's like the core principle behind how you become successful, right? Is you just cut out the bad, insert the good. And that's what I did. But I think I could have done it even faster if I just had someone there to tell me, like, listen, your future's in your own hands and you have to take control now.
Yeah, man. One thing I really like and admire about the way that you approach things, or at least the perception I have of the way that you view things, is things are very almost scientific in
Mhm.
the sense of like you've thought things out. The book is even the data-driven approach to grow on YouTube. Your days are planned out. You do certain things. The reason you live where you live, like everything is very meticulous and thought out. And I think that's something to, yeah, really, really draw from because again, there's a reason you've gotten to where you've gotten in the time frame that you have. And again, put into context, you're 24 years old. You're doing numbers that people twice, three times your age make in a year, in a month, right? And there's no luck factor. There's no, of course, there's always a luck factor, but there's no, like, this didn't just happen,
Yeah.
right? It was something that was very calculated with steps along the way and progress made. And the curve may have been exponential when you zoom out, but when you actually zoom in and you see the progress that went throughout every step of the journey, I think it's very clear to see why you were able to take off when you were. I think that's something to, yeah, really look to and, replicate for yourself.
Thank you, man. I do think though it is worth saying that like with that, it's like I view that as like the normal thing. And I think if you want to get to a new level, you have to adjust the future to your new normal. And so like for me, I still see all the flaws that I have. I have tons of flaws. Like even last night I was like on the phone with my girl for like an hour, you know? And that's not bad necessarily, but it's like I could have worked, right? And I could have done something. I could have had a 20-minute call and just called it at that. That probably would have been better. And so it's like even though like I operate at a pretty high level, there's still so much more that I can optimize that who are so far ahead of me at younger ages have already optimized for. And so I think it's constantly understanding that you can never get comfortable with where you're at, and that even me, I feel like I'm right now, like I always come from the frame as I'm operating below what normal should be for the person that I want to be. And I need to improve, and I need to I need to get past that normal. I need to become exceptional. And even though my current life and my income, whatever it may be exceptional to some people, for me, it's not. And I know it never will be. Maybe it will, but I would like to work up to the point where I am satisfied with what I've done. And I know that there's not much more I can do. Right now, there's so much more I can do. And I think if you're someone who wants to be at a very high level, you need to reevaluate your level of adequacy, raise it, essentially just raising your standards, raise it way higher and hold yourself accountable to that.
100%. But equally, living in the present, being able to appreciate the moments. Sometimes those hour-long calls are good for the soul, and good for things that you can't directly measure. And that's not to say you can't have a waste of an hour. You definitely can. But in some specific situations, I think, yeah, sometimes also just giving yourself grace. You're not a robot.
Yeah, of
Not
course,
gonna be
of course.
perfect.
Yeah, it's true. But I think there's a time and a place for that.
There it's agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. But yeah, I mean, before wrapping up, any final message, story, anecdote, theme to bring up?
I think just I think just like one of the biggest lessons for me is just attach yourself to the inputs, not the outputs. Like I focus on getting a video out every single week. That's my inputs. If I can hit that, I'm happy. I don't care how the video does. I just care if I get that video out. And that's what's allowed me to be successful, is simply just focusing on those inputs and detaching myself from the external.
Beautifully put. And in terms of the inputs, we'll be going into a lot more on the YouTube specific
Let's go.
episode that we're doing. If you want to check out that YouTube deep dive where Linden's dropping all kinds of gems about the platform, you can check that out right here. And if you want to watch another one of my conversations with one of Linden's clients, Kasim, you can check that out right here.